So this here is the record tower. It's the oldest remaining part of the castle. It actually is from the original medieval structure, so 1222 is when it was originally constructed. It's gone through a bit of reconstruction over the years, but the original structure dates from then. Survived the fire that ravaged the rest of the castle because the walls are really thick. They're 4.6 meters thick, so that's about the length of a car. So a big tower with big thick walls, what might you do with a tower like that? They used it as a prison. Very difficult to escape from a prison like that. There was only ever one escape from Dublin Castle, and that's the crazy story of Red Hugh O'Donnell. One of these stories where sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So Red Hugh, he was the son of the King of Donegal. If you can imagine, this is Ireland here. Donegal is right up here in the northwestern corner of the country. And at this point in history, in the 1500s, this is where the Celtic clans still had a stronghold after being pushed off the east by the English. So we had the O'Donnell clan up there and the O'Neill clan. Two very powerful clans. The English were terrified of these guys because they felt like if the two clans formed an alliance, they could easily overrun the country and take Ireland back. So the English didn't want this. So what they did is they devised a plan to capture Red Hugh, the son of the king. That way they'd have a hostage, they'd have a bit of leverage to stop these guys from attacking. So it's 1587. Red Hugh is a 15-year-old Irish boy. Any guesses what they might have used to lure him into a trap?
Girl?
Beer, I heard. 15-year-old girl is a great guess. I'm sure that would have worked. Beer is closer to the actual answer. Guinness wasn't around in those days, but it was alcohol. It was Spanish wine. The Spanish took a ship, they disguised it as a merchant ship, they filled it with wine, sailed it into port in Donegal. Everybody's drinking wine, everybody's delighted. Word gets to Red Hugh, he drops everything he's doing, races to the port, says to the sailors, please can I buy some wine? And they say, we're very sorry, we've actually run out of wine for sale. But if you want to come aboard the ship, you can drink as much wine as you want for free. So Red Hugh thinks this is a great idea, and he gets on board the ship and he starts drinking, and he keeps drinking, and he keeps drinking, and then he collapses, and he wakes up down here in Dublin. A long way from Donegal. He wakes up inside this tower where he's kept prisoner for 5 long years. And he's not the only one. The English have also captured Art O'Neill and Henry O'Neill from the O'Neill clan. So they have prisoners from both clans to stop the guys from teaming up and attacking. So 5 long years they kept prisoner in here. Then finally, in 1592, they come up with a plan to escape after watching the Shawshank Redemption. They knock out the guard with their manacles, they crawl through a hole in the floor, and they escape through a sewer in the tower. So they're free. Amazing. But there's a couple of problems. The first problem is, it's not a fairly mild day in September, it's January, it's bloody cold, and they're only wearing thin prisoner clothes. The other problem is they're in Dublin, there's English forces everywhere, so they have to run to the Wicklow Mountains, which are about 25 miles away south of the city, to get to a safe house. So they're running down there, but it's so cold on the way that Art O'Neill and Henry O'Neill die of exposure. Not a great start. And Red Hugh, he's all on his own now, he loses both of his big toes to frostbite. But he's determined, he makes it all the way back to Donegal, and when he gets there, his father is delighted to see him. So delighted that he actually abdicates his kingship. He takes off the crown and he crowns Red Hugh the new king. So now we've got a very angry young man has just become king. What's the first thing he does is he declares war on the English. And this is the start of the 9 Years' War. So the 9 Years' War, the Irish are doing really well. The O'Neills, the O'Donnells combined forces, they overrun basically half the country. They're pushing the English further and further back. They just need one last push to get rid of them, but they need a bit of help. So they do the classic old trick again, look around, who doesn't like England the most this time? This time it's Spain, exactly. So Spain, Catholic country, they're attacking England anyway. So we get help from the Spanish. The Spanish send us a huge fleet of ships, the Spanish Armada, and 6,000 men to come to our aid. Amazing. Can't possibly lose this one. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. So the first thing that goes wrong is there's bad weather on the way. Many of these ships blow off course, a lot of them wreck. And of the 6,000 men coming here, only half of them make it. And all of these guys are holding their maps upside down because they don't land up here in Donegal, where all of the Irish are. They land all the way down here in the very south of the country, in my beautiful little hometown of Kinsale. Best place in Ireland. But really not very useful at this point in time. They couldn't possibly be further from the from the Irish, who are all the way up in the north. So the Irish have no choice but to march over 300 miles across the country to meet up with the Spanish, and they do this amazing march, one of the most incredible marches in history. They get to Kinsale, but they're too late, because the English have already laid siege to the town to block off the Spanish from advancing. So now we got the Spanish in Kinsale. They've been there about 3 months now, having a great time. The English have surrounded the town now, and the Irish can't get through the Spanish. So what they do instead is they launch a surprise attack on the English, but very unfortunately, more disaster. This surprise attack is betrayed by an informant. So the English know the Irish are coming, and the Irish are basically slaughtered. It's a very bloody battle, a battle of Kinsale in 1601. And that's the end of the 9 Years' War. It's not quite the end of the story though, because Red Hugh is still around after this. He still thinks we can do this, we just need a bit more help. So he goes back to Spain, back to the court of the king to look for more troops to come to our aid. He gets to Spain, but he's very tired from all the travelling, from all the fighting. So just before he gets to the court of the king, he stops at a bar. And at the bar, a gentleman comes up to him and says, Red Hugh, you really need to try the local sangria. It's amazing. Red Hugh is more than happy to try this. He gets the glass of sangria, he downs the whole thing in one go, and then he falls down dead. Because very unfortunately, an English spy had actually followed him to Spain and poisoned him. So at the end of the day, Red Hugh, he never learns his lesson not to accept free drinks from strangers. Very unfortunate.